In the U.S., politician Pete Buttigieg is now leading the race for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2028. If elected, he'd become the first out-gay president in American history. But he's not alone. Around the world, LGBTQ+ leaders are transforming their nations from the inside. In the U.S., Pete Buttigieg has broken barriers as the first out-gay cabinet member. As former Secretary of Transportation, he's championed inclusive design, like gender-neutral airport restrooms and safety for trans travelers. He's an outspoken supporter of the Equality Act, which would outlaw LGBTQ+ discrimination in housing, employment, and public services nationwide.
I would have done anything at a certain time in my life. I would have done anything to not be gay. Here I am. I'm not running to be the gay president of the United States. I'm running to be a president for everybody.
While same-sex marriage remains legal, the U.S. still lacks federal anti-discrimination protections. And in 2024, Donald Trump's return to the spotlight brought executive orders targeting trans rights and banning gender-affirming care for minors. In Brazil, Erika Hilton is making waves as one of the country's first out trans women elected to Congress. Hilton is fighting for justice in a country with one of the highest rates of LGBTQ+ violence. She's introduced bills against hate crimes, campaigned for trans healthcare access, and pushed for visibility across media and government.
This is a nation whose president hates women, hates blackness, hates the human rights agenda, and when one defends all that, one puts oneself at risk. So, to me, we're at a point in time where all of this has become even harder. But we've always overcome or tackled these challenges.
Brazil has legalized same-sex marriage, but is still one of the deadliest countries in South America for trans people. Under Bolsonaro, hate crimes rose, and the far right still holds power in many states. In France, Gabriel Attal became the youngest and first out gay prime minister in 2024. At 34 years old, he's made LGBTQ+ visibility a priority in a country that legalized same-sex marriage over a decade ago, but still grapples with homophobia and far-right extremism. He championed reforms to combat anti-LGBTQ+ hatred, advocated for youth mental health, and called for better hate crime reporting. In 2024, Gabriel Attal told the National Assembly, his appointment is proof that mindsets are evolving.
Être français en 2024, c'est, dans un pays qui il y a 10 ans seulement se déchirait encore sur le mariage pour tous, pouvoir être Premier ministre en assumant ouvertement son homosexualité.
France's current president Emmanuel Macron has also been an active and vocal supporter of LGBTQ+ rights throughout his presidency. Under his leadership, France has strengthened hate crime legislation and improved protections for queer people, including expanding access to assisted reproductive technology for lesbian couples and single women. In Germany, Jens Spahn, former health minister and a prominent member of the center-right CDU, is one of Europe's most visible gay conservatives. While in office, Spahn pushed for more funding for HIV research and launched public campaigns for PrEP awareness. On the other side of the aisle, Sven Lehmann, Germany's first federal commissioner for LGBTQ+ affairs, has also championed progressive reform. Backed by the Greens, he's moved to repeal the 1980 transsexual law, which required invasive exams and court approval for gender changes. He supports self-ID, which allows trans people to self-determine their legal gender. And in 2021, Tessa Ganserer and Nyke Slawik became Germany's first out trans MPs. They've since used their voices to demand comprehensive trans rights, protections for LGBTQ+ youth, and legal recognition of gender without forced medical diagnoses.
When I went into politics over 10 years ago, there were no trans role models who were active in politics. I'm sure that trans people who come after us will have it a lot easier.
In the UK, Mhairi Black made history as the youngest MP elected since 1667 at just 20 years old. As a lesbian, she quickly became a bold voice for LGBTQ+ rights and a sharp critic of transphobia in British politics.
Most folk actually don't know a lot about trans people. They don't know a lot about trans issues or the laws which we are seeking to reform. So I want to use today as an opportunity to take a little heat out of such discussions and explain and answer some of the concerns that people have.
In 2024, she stepped down at age 29, calling Westminster toxic.
One of the most unhealthy workplaces that you could ever be in. It's a toxic environment.
Now, in Labour's front bench, Wes Streeting, a gay MP and health secretary, promises to reform mental health care, support inclusive sex education, and address health disparities facing queer people. And Angela Eagle, UK's only out lesbian MP for 13 years, remains a powerful voice for equality. She's long advocated for inclusive workplaces, trans rights, and stood against rising hate speech online and in politics.
We aren't going to get back in the closet or hide or be ashamed of the way we are. And nor are we going to allow a generation of pupils that are now in school to go through what the pupils in the 80s had to go through.
Taiga Ishikawa became Japan's first out gay national lawmaker in 2019. He's been a loud voice, calling for a national anti-discrimination law, advocating for same-sex partnership recognition, and demanding better treatment of refugees and asylum seekers. Japan still doesn't recognize same-sex marriage. In 2023, a court ruled the ban unconstitutional, but the national government hasn't acted. In India, Shabnam Mausi made history as the first out transgender elected official. She served in the early 2000s and campaigned for HIV awareness, education access, and public visibility for India's Hijra and trans communities. Today, Anish Gawande broke new ground in 2024 as the first out gay national spokesperson for a major party, the NCP. He campaigns for LGBTQ inclusive welfare policies and broader anti-discrimination laws.
Is it easy for young queer people to come out? Not really. We have to pave that path, and we have to ensure that every young person in this country has a shot at success regardless of where they come from or regardless of what their sexual orientation or gender identity is.
As of 2025, homosexuality is legal in India, but same-sex marriage is still banned. Appointed in 2020, Grant Robertson was New Zealand's first prominent out gay deputy prime minister. Under Jacinda Ardern's leadership, he helped expand protections for LGBTQ+ youth and supported inclusive school policies.
Where are we? Parliament's Rainbow Room, notable by the rainbow flags and other flags up there. So these are the front pages of each of the main bits of legislation that have been passed around the rights of rainbow communities. Conversion practices, which was a big piece of policy work for Labor that we did, and then the updating of the Birth, Deaths and Marriages bill to allow gender identity to be properly expressed.
Also in 2020, New Zealand elected the queerest parliament in the world, with MPs such as Chloe Swarbrick, Tamati Coffey, and Ricardo Menendez March. From Pete Buttigieg leading U.S. polls for 2028, to history makers like Gabriel Attal in France and Taiga Ishikawa in Japan, LGBTQ+ politicians are changing the global political landscape, one country at a time. Which LGBTQ+ politician inspires you most? And what issues do you want to see them tackle next? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more global queer news and stories.